Hey everybody, it's Chad Warren. It's Saturday, November 23rd, 2019. Hope you're well. You can find me at Chad Warren76 at Twitter and chadwarren.me online. Wanted to focus on this video here by David Hoffman on YouTube, Baby Boomers Speaking to Us from 1989. Where was I in 1989? I remember, wasn't that when Depeche Mode's Personal Jesus came out? Personal Jesus, someone to give you faith, someone to love, something like that. Um, that was when I left California after living there for 6 years. After I was 9, and moved back to Arkansas where I grew up to live with my dad instead of my mom. That's what I remember about 1989. Pivotal year for sure. Like I remember later being in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and they had a rock and roll club, JR's Light Bulb Club, and it had pictures all on the wall of rock acts that had been there, and they were really from that 1989 rock heavy metal era. So yeah, I will play some of this and then read my commentary because this fits in with my bigger goal about finding other people that share this desire to change uh, media so that instead of us being reactionary, that we create our own true alternative. So let's hear. This was a documentary he made in the 90s about the 60s. And then here we are about 30 years later. So that's interesting. 30-30. Yeah.
I'm David Hoffman, filmmaker, and you're about to see a clip from my six-part PBS television series, Making Sense of the 60s, circa 1991. So it's a long time ago that I made this, and an even longer time ago that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the 1960s. I'm looking at middle-class, largely white suburban kids in the new suburbia. I came from Levittown, Long Island, one of those suburbias. There had been a PBS series called Eyes on the Prize, which looked at the.
Hey, I gotta pause this and say I assume this is David Hoffman's merchandise. I just saw this and I couldn't agree more with the sentiment because out of all my critical points of view of Christianity and of life, that right there is a big message that I have. Making something good out of something bad. I imagine that good came about because everyone cutthroat. And that's what I want to help the next generation to not just smile and be nice and polite and not to be an argumentative jerk, but to understand you got to be tough to defend against professional bullies. You know, the techniques of mind control have of keeping situation the way it has been that way for a long time. So we should be experiencing true solidarity amongst all different kinds of people instead of completely divided. You know, and it's not personal, it's all just business. So we should look at it like a business and make something good come out of something bad. Make that be our replacement for the economy.
The black civil rights era experience. So PBS gave me a grant to make a series on the largely white suburban middle class. And what I'm trying to explain is why so many kids, not all, rebelled against the 1950s. I know it's very controversial now. My God, if you look at the comments on my previous baby boomer clips, holy moly, people hate the baby boomers. People think it messed up the world. People think it messed up America. That is another subject. What I'm looking at.
Now, I agree that life since the world wars, including the world wars, I mean, everything's all controlled from my point of view. And all of this has been a fake positive. You know, what all the success of positivity of the 60s and, 50s, 60s, 70s was based on being the ruler of the world, essentially, after these world wars. And very obviously, we can look back and go, that was all just the military industrial complex. And they make us be high so then they can break us down. But I hate seeing on social media, okay, boomer. You know what I mean? As being a former young little twit myself, that's the difference between Gen X. Gen X had to listen to my dad's music because ours wasn't as good. Hell yeah, I'm going to listen to Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and all this stuff. I love all kinds of 80s new wave, uh, I'm blanking out, Joy Division, all that kind of stuff that was super metrosexual, but that's good music, man. I don't care what, but yeah, it's just that's my big message. It's like you may be correct, man. She is fine. You may be correct to critique a lot of stuff, but unless we're actually creating a solution directly instead of kissing Trump's ass, ain't nothing gonna happen. Or hating him, ain't nothing good coming from that.
In this clip is what it was like that caused kids to rebel. And I, after a lot of study, came up with these unwritten rules. The rules are very important to understand because all of us felt these rules. These rules were like written in stone, but they were in fact never really spoken. You just sort of felt you had to live by them. And one of the things I'm proud of is that I use these educational films. Let me just tell you, they're not easy to get. We saw them in high school. 16 millimeter guy comes in with the audiovisual guy comes in, sets up the projector, and they ran these films. Well, for us, in my classes at least, and the classes of others that I spoke with, nobody believed these films. These films were like fantasies. They were Hollywood fantasies. Looked at from the present, well, I don't know what you think, but looked at from the late 1980s, we could all look at these old films and say, yeah.
Is happening today that he's describing, right? He was hip. He understood that all that jazz and those propaganda pieces shown in school were crap. So did our generation. We were shown Channel 1, and that, come on, it's this just typical public private gangster government partnership crap where, well, the school wants to get TV, so we've agreed to show this propaganda in here. I mean, it's laughable if it weren't so terrible. I can't even watch the movie Idiocracy and laugh at it anymore because it's already true.
That's what I was rebelling against. It wasn't like that. None of us lived like that. And also remember, the baby boomers break into at least, this is being debated on my YouTube channel, 3 groups. One group didn't participate in the 60s at all, lived in small towns, rural America, or just wasn't part of it, didn't look at it that way. Another group rebelled, grew their hair longer, smoked marijuana, wear a hippie-like outfit, although no way were they hippies, listen to rock and roll. And a third group, a very small group, were political activists, really radicals. But that may be less than 5% of the population. So it divides into these 3 groups. About 35% of the baby boom generation say they participated in the 60s. The group that was political radicals, less than 5%.
So you're getting some good info here, actual sociological analysis, whatever you want to call it. And again, I just want to impress to you, my opinion is that we are more heavily controlled through psychological operations than ever. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, all of that was just as much from the government as the wars and the internet. So they've got us right where they want us. Trump won because of the largest psychographic data mining operation ever, to the point that people that are professionals in that industry say that technology should be categorized as a weapon because it's so effective at changing human behavior. So I will, leave the rest of that wonderful video for you to watch and hear the responses from people that lived in that time. And I'll just read my comment here. I appreciate this documentary about growing up in the 50s being retold, David. I'm 43, divorced, with one son living in North Little Rock, Arkansas. My view is that our society is more engineered than ever today. I'm someone who has always seen myself as counterculture since my folks divorced when I was 9. We were upper middle class, and they sent me to various Catholic Christian schools till I was 14 to instill discipline that they didn't have. I see my folks as very loving, but not very involved in preparing me for life, probably because their youth was overbearing. So I have always felt lost because I wanted to act and make movies, but wasn't focused enough to make that happen. Social media is the worst. After all these years of consuming fringe content based on a conspiratorial view that occult secret societies have always guided culture, my lesson to share is that we are the conspirators. It takes a slave mentality to make a master mentality function. We genuinely want to do the right thing, but we don't want to make the sacrifices that are necessary. I say civilization itself is the problem because it's founded on giving up your responsibilities to a government or to an undisciplined desire to be self-reliant. We are polarized, and we would have to give it our all to change our behavior with the same long-term plan and discipline the ruling class uses to keep things this way. But I've never seen independent types be able to match that, to be able to be organized or productive. All these bad ways to rebel are promoted, such as sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which was issued by the government as wars and the internet are, like I said. We never develop an identity apart from one relative to the established order. Loving it or hating it doesn't matter. It's between opposites because we need to be both liberal and conservative, think young and old, etc. This guy last night came up with a cool one like that on Miguel Connor's Aeon Byte Gnostic Radio. There was a discussion about paganism and what it meant to these people. And this guy, I think his name is Van, the older gentleman there, he had this construct he made up called up, down, left, right, back and forth. Up is towards freedom, down is towards tyranny. Left and right, as we know, conservative, liberal, and back and forth between past and future. And the benefit being that you can get outside of that cube, like in Shakespeare where he's holding the skull. To be able to get outside of that, that's the mentality of the people that are masters. They're not just playing their position, they're playing all the positions. So we have to match them. Just like in that Flash Gordon movie, Clytus. You fools, he's playing some barbaric game. Now match him like this. That's what we got to do. Because they are playing this game, we have to play this game, yet also retain. We don't want to be playing the game. Instead of doing that, which is to take account of all those positions, including our own, we turn on YouTube or a ball game. Maybe if we could integrate what was good about the TV medium into internet videos, that could help. What do you think? What do you think? So focus on that. That's my core, what I think that I would like to get people to cooperate and help me with. I'd like to see one channel that is on a website so it's not censored by Silicon Valley, like here at YouTube and all that, and they're kicking us off. Maybe make it a variety of programming around the idea of radical centrism. Corporate mainstream media was the traditional center of American culture controlled by Hollywood. First they created the American dream, then they created the American nightmare. We're going to make Superman dark and bad and darkity, dark, dark, dark. And it doesn't matter if you're pointed towards good or bad. The point is, we're playing this stupid Simon Says game. Quit listening to Simon, figure it out, and work with other people. It's our fault for letting a few people manage our culture. The people are the cause of totalitarian leaders. We should highlight the very few who go against the love-hate vortex surrounding Trump. That one Trump supporter that led a cleanup effort in Baltimore and LA, wow, let's promote that and invite people to participate locally afterward. I would make all shows connect to action that could be taken locally to support the content of the entertainment. That's a major problem with narratives, is that they suck us into a virtual world instead of into real life. I would critique Star Wars and the Bible the same way in that regard. All of this is religion, which is trying to gain power by depending on an external authority system that we don't control. Using Google is bad because we're putting control in so few hands, for example. And I'm doing it, you know what I mean? I'm using that. YouTube is owned by Google right now. So just admitting that we're all, it's like the Christians call sin. We're all doing this. But, you know, that has a positive effect to help us change our behavior by admitting, hey, you know, we're all alcoholics. We're all, we're all Googleaholics. Hopefully, as YouTube kicks more people off for being critical of the establishment or not being helpful to their profit, this will force us to create our own community. The problem with America is we never broke free from the establishment. We believed what we were told. Now that we question everything, we see how divisive and chaotic that is, so the radicals must learn how to be both authentic yet disciplined to keep the peace. Thank you very much. Please check out David Hoffman. Let him know that Chad Warren sent you. You can find me at ChadWarren76 on Twitter and ChadWarren.me online. Thank you. Good day.